Welcome to Dr. Dispatch Tutorials. Today's video, we're going to connect QuickBooks or integrate QuickBooks with Dr. Dispatch on the brokerage side. This will be a simple integration. We won't be doing carrier advances or advances you may take from the bill to customer. We'll do those in future videos. Keep it simple on this one. To be at this point, we need to have Dr. Dispatch, of course, installed, licensed, and we need QuickBooks installed on at least one PC ready to go with the company file. And the QuickBooks SDK needs to be installed. All this is covered in video 1. We need to make sure we're past that point and pick up here. Okay, to start off, Dr. Dispatch, we're going to be dealing with the brokerage invoicing, but first let's go to Setup here and go to the QuickBooks Setup Now, and we're going to make sure we select the brokerage company file, not the trucking. You can have 2 separate files or 1 file for both. And then we're going to go ahead on the brokerage side and we want to open our QuickBooks and get the file open that we're going to be using for the brokerage. This is the easy way to do things. Built that we go over on a couple of YouTube videos we have posted for you up there. Okay, once you get the brokerage company file open, eventually, we're going to start with the home position here. There again, I like to have view and then open window list engage. This makes the list where you can find them easily and flip easily back and forth. Otherwise, you have to minimize this stuff and fumble around. Real inconvenient. Big time saver here. So, to hook up the brokerage invoicing, first we got to have an item. An item is a word, a description, if you will, of a service that you're going to put on an invoice and is connected to an income account generally. Now, we've already used this company file to hook up a trucking company, so we had truck freight. So we're going to add a line item. We're also going to be adding an expense account to pay an outside carrier. That's going to be your biggest expense each year. Probably, what, 88 cents on the dollar, maybe more or less, a little bit going out to the carrier, their biggest expense. We want to trap that for end of the year and to get the 1099s out. So we're going to have an expense account, at least one line item, and of course Dr. Dispatch integration will take care of the rest. So let's start with the line item. Right click if you don't have one. New. Simple but descriptive. Let's just call it BRK Freight. We had truck freight. We're doing, in this case, 2 companies in one file, which that's up to you and your accountant whether you do that or not. But if you do it this way, that keeps it separate. Now, account-wise, simple, I could use this, but let's back up for a minute here. And let's actually go over here to our chart of accounts. And let's make a new sub-account for brokerage income. So right-click New. It's an income account. And we're going to continue. It's going to need a name. Let's just spell this out. In this case, since it's an income account. And what we're going to do here, that's going to be kind of slick actually, is check this to make it a sub account, to gross trucking income, and then save and close. So you got a name, sub account, pick your main income account, and then when you save it, you end up with this. So grabbing one income account in QuickBooks on all your reporting is going to automatically grab gross trucking income as well as brokerage underneath it, and they'll both be separated out for you already. We had fuel surcharge here separately. That's up to you whether you do that or not. Now we've got an income account separate for brokerage. So now let's go back to our item list, right click and do new. I happen to have copied that, so we'll call it brokerage freight. We're going to pick our new account, brokerage freight, and that's all you need to do. Hit OK to save it, and you've added the line item, which is a service connected to. Now, it looks like it's connected to the same ones, but QuickBooks actually separates sub-accounts with a semicolon, or colon, I should say. So it's income trucking and then brokerage income under there. Okay, so we got that. Now let's finish up. We got to have not a line item, but we have to have an actual expense account to grab all this carrier pay through the year. So let's right click, make a new account. There again, if you don't have one, any expense account of any name will work. That's up to you. Same on the income accounts, whatever name you want. In this case, carrier pay is an expense, definitely tax deductible. Continue. And it's going to want a name, of course. I'm just going to call this carrier pay. You could call this anything you want, outside carrier pay, subcontractor, whatever word suits you. Um, we are creating an account, so there's nothing to attach it to, so you just save and close. Looks like we already had one of those here. How about that? Tell you what, let's do. Let's just for the sake of making a new one, let's call this outside carrier pay. Sorry about that. I already had one in there. So now we created this outside carrier pay. It's an expense. And looking here, yeah, I already did have carrier pay. Apologize for that. But it's okay to have two. We're just going to use one of them, of course, now. Also know that these reports in QuickBooks are sortable by the column header. The top here is not only a name for the column, but sort button, A to Z, Z to A. And more importantly, it's nice to group these this way so you can find all these accounts inside of income or expense and then alphabetically within there. And there again, we got carrier pay was already there. We added outside carrier pay, which we're going to use in today's video. So let's recourse over this thing. We've got a new item that we created. Right click, new item, give it a name. Important thing is to link it to the proper income account. This will be to put in invoices with robotically. Number 2, chart of accounts, and this is all under lists, people. The important stuff here. List has almost everything you want to get at: customers, vendors, chart of accounts, everything. So we go to the chart accounts. We do a right click, a new, create a carrier pay expense account if you don't already have one, and then get that saved, and then you're ready to roll for most parts. So we're going to go back to the Dr. Dispatch QuickBooks setup, which we got to off of the setup screen, the QuickBooks tab. We press this button. We're here. We have QuickBooks open, ready to go. We have the company file up in front of us. We're on the brokerage tab. We have QuickBooks, the proper version selected in the drop-down list that matches your product. Then simply hit the Use Currently Open Company File button. This serves two things. It's going to do your connection with QuickBooks originally, and it's going to actually put the path and the name of the file that you have open in here for you. So it kills two birds with one stone right there. Now, know this: if you've never connected Dr. Dispatch to QuickBooks, you will get a little different reaction. Let me show you what will happen here if they've never talked before, the two pieces of software. I'm going to remove Dr. Dispatch from the OK list in QuickBooks. And then I'm going to go back and do this same step again. I'm going to basically say use open file. Watch what happens. Now, QuickBooks is going to ask your permission, of course. I'm not going to let viruses or other bad software connect with your QuickBooks file. So you want to tell it yes to let Dr. Dispatch access the file even if QuickBooks is not running. That way it's easy to do. You don't have to have QuickBooks open in the future. No, we don't have a digital certificate. Yes, it's ready to go. And that won't happen again. Well, sometimes QuickBooks will spot check you and they'll pop that up, but for most parts it won't ask that question again and you're good to go. They've shaken hands and know each other now. Manage account, step 2. Brokerage tab. We want to hit refresh. It's going to read what QuickBooks has available, and it's going to show you what, if anything, you have stored in these fields for these accounts. Kind of a little backwards here. Our expense part, or our carrier pay, is at the top, and invoicing is in the lower part. Now, of course, this has been set up before, but we're still going to go through it again. Remember, we tried to make carrier pay as an expense account, and it was already there, so we're going to use our new one, which is outside carrier pay. You should be able to spell and locate this. You've got to select all these things from QuickBooks, what they have to offer. You cannot type something in here that does not exist verbatim in QuickBooks, or it will not work. I spelled OUT, got outside carrier pay. I can tab out OUT. There it is. Now, to do this a little easier, I'm just going to copy that value, and you need to put this in every one of these in case you pay a carrier a tailgate charge or a tarping charge or permits, whatever. If you got to have an account or an item for this to go to. Now, let's back out of that one. That's for advances, which is a later video. Um, Leave that as is, delete it, whatever you want to do there. You can just leave it as is. It's not going to get used. So we want these to all be the same. Yes, you can break unloading and stuff out into different expense accounts, but it seems like a lot of work to me. The invoices are going to have this broken down on them, and the bills, when you pay the carrier, the bill in QuickBooks will have each line item of rate you pay them, like unloading, flat rate, so on and so forth. But if you want to break them down, just pick what you want from the QuickBooks list. Easy ways to keep them all the same. So that's there again. That's the expense account, not the AP account. That's the outside carrier pay that we created here, right here earlier, and it is an expense account. Make sure it's in all of them. We're done with that. Now we go to invoicing. Same scenario. We got to have a legitimate name for brokerage invoicing. So look, we've made one called brokerage freight. Now there again, I'm just going to copy and paste this. It's easier. Fuel surcharge. You could use the trucking one. You could make it your own new one. Just a line item, remember, and get it in here. You can come back and change this stuff once you feel comfortable with doing this. Now, can't say this enough how important it is. Whatever's in these expense names and these drop downs for these line items has to match something QuickBooks has to offer. I drop it down if there 2 times. That means that the QuickBooks has it. That means I'm good. I know that name's going to work. All these are going to do that. And if they don't, then you got a problem. You got to change to a name that's in their QuickBooks drop lookup list. It's a must. Okay, so we got expenses, the expense account for the outside carrier at the top. We have the okay, so we got all the account expense account information for the carrier pay up here on the top. The bottom, we've got the line item for brokerage freight, which leads to our brokerage freight income account. Got that in there, and we hit save. And we go on. Classes, we're not going to cover in this video. You can use classes. If it's on, it would be in the list. There would be a list of classes for you already defined by somebody. In this case, I've used inbound and outbound. Good example. I could mark any invoice with an inbound or outbound or reefer or van or flat, however you want to div out your company and check different income arrangements and situations, but you wouldn't do new income accounts. You'd use one, which keeps it simple, and use classes to divide it up into classes. And that's something to go into in a more advanced video, not today, but for now, I just wanted to explain classes, and then we're going to go ahead and pass that up for now. We're going to finish up here on terms. You must have terms. We're on the brokerage. That's fine. Trucking brokerage, read terms. Get this is what QuickBooks has to offer. You got to get theirs. Don't have to move this over. I'm going to. You don't have to specify terms on each carrier or customer in Dr. Dispatch. There is a place to do that, but you do not have to do it. And this is a default that it'll use automatically. AP, if you want to keep it 15, that's fine. 30 is going to make you a better AP report. Doing it, 0 to 30 is current, and looking at it then, and that's the way QuickBooks is going to do. So we would do an AP aging, and when it comes up, you want it to be 1 to 30, 0 to 30, 31 to 60. If you did it in 15 days, net 15, it'd be 1 to 15, 16 to 30. It'd be kind of hard for you to really keep a tight handle on it, keep everybody under 30 days. Pick what you want as long as it's from that list. Same for your AR. And go ahead and save the changes, and we're done. A quick walkthrough of this again. Brokerage company file tab. Make sure you have the proper version. Press the use company file button. Have your QuickBooks open and ready to go, of course. Logged in as administrator. Manage account, brokerage tab. You refresh. This one's already been set up. It's going to blank everything out, but it's going to fill back in what we've chosen and saved. And it'll always have your stuff saved in here. And once that flashes back, we know everything's there. We can verify it's good by seeing it 2 times in any of the drop downs. Very good. Save changes. Classes, if you use them, on or off. Import the list, move them to Dr. Dispatch. Classes, just so you know, if you use classes, and I don't know if I have it on here in this example, but when you use classes, there's a drop down that'll be on your dispatch screen, which would be here. Sorry, I don't have it turned on. I won't take the time to do it, but there'll be a drop down here for your dispatchers to put a class that you on each type of load, van, reefer, inbound, outbound, whatever, and then that transfers over to QuickBooks as well. So classes, use them or don't. Terms, read them, move them if you want to. Always make sure you have a selection here, save it, and you're done. Now we tested the connection or talking clear back when we did step one, so that's a good thing. We know it's working, and as long as you got your line items and accounts correct. Close this down. The setup, I happen to have load, I think it's, let me double check here, 100, or 1014, I'm sorry. So I'm going to find 1014. Here's my load. Be a good carrier is the carrier. There's my customer, my gross pay, carrier pay, all the stops. Now we're to the point of, once the carrier and everything is assigned to the load, it's going to be an invoicing ready to go. You select what you're going to invoice for the day. It can be many, of course, at once. Do it one time a day, however. I'm going to do a quick print preview and process this. And then there's my invoice that normally we'd print them, but you can email or whatever. And when it's done, each load is going to have 2 records in your export batch. Why 2? One for AR, customer, invoice, collect your money. And the second one's AP, pay your carrier, your truck, which is your livelihood as well. That's got to be done. So you got 2 records, an invoice and a bill. Going to go over. Your totals are here. I'm going to take a second on this. How to send over the carrier bill and the reference number. QuickBooks has got a place for the bill to have a reference number. This is great. Your pro/carrier invoice, which, by the way, carrier invoice is entered in the grid back here. Let me close this. And you can come back and do the export at any time. If we move over here, the vendor invoice number can be put in here for the carrier. And when you export to QuickBooks, you could have Pro 1014 / whatever you put in the grid, but when you go to search or find it, it's a nightmare. It has to be exact. I prefer to go by Pro. You always know your Pro. And when you go to QuickBooks and do a find bill reference or find a bill by 1014, you're going to, I'm going to press the export button up here, single button press to send the bill and the invoice over to QuickBooks. Press the button. It'll ask us yes or no to go over. Yes. And then once these turn from blue to green, they're done, and it'll go down your list, and then you'll get a printout on the end. There we go. Successful. I'm not going to print this. I'll preview it real quick. Simple report. It's got your totals for AR and your bill. Total for what you pay in your carrier, and they're both listed. Remember, 2 at a time, 2 per pro, print it, whatever. And then did it print that report print properly? Of course, yes, it did. Clears your bats. You can do a whole day's worth of invoice in 60 seconds or less here. You got to love it. What did it do in QuickBooks? Well, it's going to add your customer and then add the invoice. Now, if the customer's already there, it's just going to make sure it's there and add the invoice. On the carrier, same thing. It's going to add him as a vendor, the carrier. It's going to put the bill under him so you'll know to pay him on your AP report. And there again, if the carrier's there, it's just going to add it in under the rest. Now we'll go to home and we'll go to customer. I believe that was an Ozark Jeep load 1014. Here's our load 1014. Really slick how it shows what's under here for everything you've done with any customer just by highlighting. Double click the invoice, and we had a single flat rate charge on this load of $25.30. Here's your bill to party, billing date. We also list every pickup with the information. And this didn't have much information on the stops, but if you put it in here, you got everything you need over here to chase down your money, your POs, pickup numbers, cases, weight, everything. There again, all stops are listed on the invoice. And we'll close that down, and we'll go to our vendor list and be a good truck, or be a good carrier, I'm sorry. There again, see how that reference number came over for that bill? Makes it easy to find. Double click the bill, and this is what you owe the guy. This is why I say it's not such a great idea to make a bunch of expense accounts for unloading and stuff for these carriers. Put it all under carrier pay, but when you do each bill is going to have the line item on how you paid this gentleman. So it's all going to be there no matter, but under one convenient account. Okay, so there's the bill, the invoice. You do your reports on your receivables on who owes you. Your payables would be under vendors. There again, I can't stress enough, you don't pay the trucks, they won't be back. There's the bill we just put in. He's in the 1 to 30 day range on aging. You got safe little 30 days old before you pay him. Okay, that pretty well does it. Ready to go. No fuss, no muss. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next video.